This is probably my favorite from when I did the Huion challenge last November. This is my super chill, all the time Cryptomancer. This whole thing started out with a JoJo pose, if you can't tell. I wanted to have him have a more dynamic style and posing, and this is kind of what ended up happening. Just really out there pose and a big old hat on his head. I wanted him to be kind of cool, a little relaxed, and also probably very obviously mischievous. I hope that comes across well enough at the end of this. Not gonna lie, I like his design and character a lot, like to the point that I'm actually gonna be putting him in my comic. Speaking of which is a work in progress. It is not done. You won't be able to find it. So, okay, getting back on track. I wanted his fashion to be more skin tight, as you can clearly see with me trying to figure out how his clothes are gonna work. Of course, he has like a winter and snow theme. I'm not kidding when I say he's my favorite. Like, I'm really not. I love this guy a lot. It took me a second to really work out how his clothes was gonna work, because it's basically something akin to a weird bodysuit that's just a little extra with a really nice hat. And, well, don't get me started on the hat. That thing had to be the highlight of his design. I wanted it to be big and just outright glorious. It's probably the thing I would steal from him if he were real. With, of course, some icicles hanging off of it because, you know, the snow theme. To be honest, I'd actually planned on animating him, but this was during the 30-day challenge, which I'd started to run behind on at that point then, so yeah, that didn't end up happening. The highlight of this is actually when I put in the background, which you'll see closer to the end. It's what really made him come out perfectly for me. And of course, it was kinda, sorta, maybe by accident. Just trust the process. At first I was thinking of just having him keep that smug little grin he had before, but I feel like the big toothy smile kind of just works out more perfectly with his vibe. And of course his color scheme, it had to be blue. You know, blue, white, gray, light blue, cyan, all the other names for the word blue. And I guess grayscale. Mind you, I was thinking of actually having him represent black ice, which is one of the reasons that I gave him like blue-black skin and put a lot of that into his design. Granted, I would have probably done something similar anyways, because I planned to do that from the beginning, even if it wasn't necessarily an ice theme. This ended up working out a lot better than intended, to be honest. Partially because of the background. When I finally started figuring out what I was doing with him, I gave him like little snow crystal kind of patterns on his body, which is the reason I started shading his clothes. I wanted to have it kind of just alternating in color to a little degree. And, well, the hat, I was just gonna put all that effort into the hat. The brace and the jewelry on his arm are, of course, made of ice. It would be reflective if someone were to come close to him. Maybe I like the hat shiny too. I know I'm saying the hat a lot, I'm sorry. Well, I mean, no, I'm not sorry. And of course his hair actually, which I'd actually forgotten to mention, they're meant to be like Bantu knots. I wanted to have him have like little Bantu knots or maybe just thick dreads. But I like Bantu knots better for his design. Just under the hat. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. Given that he's a Cryptomancer, of course, he has to have like an affinity for water and, of course, ice. You know, I'd actually planned on having this have a limited palette, and I don't think I even stuck with that. You know what? I know I didn't stick with that. I completely ignored that at some point because I wanted to make it like really, really pretty colors. Pretty much. Which is fine, because this is for me. I'm not giving this to anyone, so this doesn't have to be a problem. Where was I? So I planned on having it seem like the water was kind of coming off of his feet, or more that he was kind of riding up from it. To be honest, I think the word would probably be melting. And also dripping from his clothes. Well, his clothes. It was actually from the hat. But needless to say, I wanted the ice to be coming off of his body. And it's one of the reasons why I have like the water on the ground. It's kind of just like coming off of his body. It's a puddle, it's there. And I wanted to have water behind him that's coming up in a bit of a fluid motion that kind of stuck to him when it touched him, basically. And as I said before, it was the happy little accident that I did here when I accidentally matched the background with his skin color. And I realized this basically is what made him perfect. He didn't end up having a normal body. Instead, he's more of a hollow shadow that matches with the darkness around him. And the only way the only way you see him is through the clothing and the highlights coming off of his body. And of course the ice crystals that are probably coming at you too, but that's a whole other situation. I'm generally just happy this came out like this. And I hope you liked it also. I'm sorry about the rambling. Have a good day.